All right, what we have today is a workout for the SI joint. Let's start on the floor, face up. We're going to simply lay on our backs, take the left knee, cross it over the right knee, open the arms out to the side, palms face up, and simply take your legs to the left side. The idea here is that the left leg is gently pushing the right leg down, and as it pushes the leg down to the floor, it's helping with opening the hip, the ilium bone. So we're just stretching here, mostly looking for space through the stretch. Slow, deep breathing. We're gonna take one more big inhale. And with an exhale, squeeze your abs, tuck your tailbone, and bring your hips back to center, uncross, and we'll switch sides. So right leg over the left, legs to the right side. Now it's the right leg, gently pressing the left thigh down, opening the SI joint. Deep breaths here. One more big inhale. And on the exhale, squeeze your abs, tuck your tailbone, pain your ribs, come back to center. Okay, let's set up for a bridge. First bridge, we're gonna do big toes touching, knees together, squeeze the knees, and simply lift your hips off the ground. Make sure your knees are squeezing the whole time. Just like that, nothing too fancy, just breathe in this position. Chin to the chest, shoulders on the ground, away from the ears. We're just squeezing the knees. You can squeeze the glutes if you want. The hips don't need to come too high. We're gonna take one inhale here and exhale slowly, one vertebrae at a time, roll it down. So for this next exercise, we want to use a band or a belt. A belt would actually work real nice. If you're using a band, you probably want to use one of the harder ones. So we're gonna put this through our legs, right below the kneecap. And we're gonna set up for a bridge. Now this time the feet are hip width, toes in, heels out, and we're going to push the knees away from each other. Toes in, heels out, hip width, knees pushing away from each other to keep them hip width apart. And then we're simply going to tuck the tailbone and lift the hips up off the ground. Tuck the chin in and breathe. Arms could be to the side, palm face up. If you're using a belt, you want to make sure that you're pushing out and that you're keeping nice tension on your abductors, on your outer thighs, and a little bit on your glute. One more big breath in. Exhale, lower down, one vertebra at a time, tucking the tailbone as you bring the lumbar vertebrae on the floor. Okay, let's go again. Knees together, squeeze. It's okay if the belt or the band just falls off. Just keep the knees squeezing, keep the big toes touching, heels slightly apart. Tuck the tailbone, lift the hips up. That's your inhale. We're gonna exhale and simply bring the hips back down to the ground. So inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower down. Choose a pace that feels easy for you. Try to keep your spine neutral here as much as possible. Make sure those knees stay together. One more. Slowly lower one vertebrae down to the ground, and let's set up the band or the belt again right underneath that patella, up in base of the kneecap, and then feet wide, knees push away from each other, engaging on the belt or the band. Now with the feet and the knees hip width apart, lift up, thrusting the hips up, and then slowly lower down. Pushing out with the knees, hips come up, that's your inhale. Exhale, lower down, and just find your own pace. Maybe 2 or 3 more reps. And on the last exhale, we're gonna roll the spine down to the ground. And let's get rid of the belt or the band. We're not gonna use it. And from here, let's do one more time a crossover, left leg over the right, legs gently to the left side, seeking that opening on the SI joint here. Arms to the side, right shoulder stays down. Big breaths. One more big inhale. Exhale, coming back to neutral, uncross, and let's switch sides. Right leg over the left, legs fall to the right. Big breaths. Couple more breaths on this side. And let's bring it back to center. Okay, we're gonna do a leg trace here. So we're gonna keep our feet fairly close together here with the knees touching and the toes touching. We're simply going to straighten the legs. It doesn't have to be all the way straight on the ground. Keep a little bit of a bend on the knees. And then take your left heel, place it over your right ankle, and then trace your heel up your shin, maybe to the knee, maybe over the knee. More important is that your thigh and your knee here are crossing to point towards the right, and try to get a sense of your left pelvic wing folding forward and in, opening the backside. So we're working on this iliacus, hip flexors on the left side. Both thighs really rolling in here. And you can play with the angle. Maybe you don't come up as high, or maybe you do come up pretty high, but you don't go super low. It's really more about keeping the low back on the ground and keeping this action of the pelvis roll. We get very little movement here on the pelvis, so we're trying to lead it from the thigh. So we'll do 5-10 reps, more or less, and then we'll switch sides here. Now we straighten the left leg, the right heel comes on top. I roll my thigh in, I roll both thighs in. I'm trying to roll the thighs in to roll the hip wings in to open the SI joint space on the back. And here we go, tracing all the way up, all the way down, or we're keeping it a little bit shorter on the range. And we're going for 5 to 10 reps, give or take. Working on rolling in, opening the back, closing through the front. Okay, how about one more time? And then let's place the feet back on the ground. So if we were to go into a butterfly position here, we will be opening our pelvic wings and compressing on the SI. So what we're gonna do is actually the opposite. We're gonna bring the knees in, we're gonna walk our feet out, toes in, heels out. Option one, you just hold that, knees towards each other, folding in, toes in, heels out. Option two, you could do some tiny micro tuck and tilts of the pelvis to get a little bit of movement on a closed front position. You could even experiment with maybe even lifting the hips up off the ground, see how that feels back there. Maybe even keeping the hips off the ground and adding the tuck and tilts. Yeah. And if none of that works for you, you just keep the pelvis on the floor and you just let the pose do the work for you. Okay, let's bring the heels closer, toes closer. Last time here, we're gonna squeeze the knees in, lift the hips up to a bridge. Take a couple breaths up here. One more inhale. On the exhale, roll down one vertebra at a time and slowly make your way up to standing. We're gonna stand with our feet wide, not super wide, just wider than hip width. Toes in, heels out. We're gonna do an adder anchor. We're gonna push the heels away from each other, trying to get a sense of opening through back. The SI joint again. Push the heels away from each other and hinge your hips back. Let's just hold it there. Knees have a nice little bend. The chest is up. We're keeping natural curvature on the spine. We're just hinging back. And it's almost like we're trying to rip the mat or the carpet by pushing the heels away from each other. We're not moving the legs. We're just looking for that abductor engagement, the TFL, and the glute to help us open the SI joint space. And then you can just go back with the hips. If you want, you can do a little wiggle, see if that feels good. We're just looking for space, 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 shoulders back, back of the neck long. Good, and then come up to standing. Let's go right foot forward, left foot back. We're not gonna take a big step here. We're gonna try to keep our sacrum fairly even by keeping our length somewhat on the shorter side, not too short. From here, we're gonna hinge, 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 find the hamstring, and then we're gonna open this SI joint by simply doing a little mini woodpecker rotation to the side. You could send the torso with you if you want, or you could keep the torso pointing straight forward, your choice. But really what we're looking for here mainly is that space on the SI, sacroiliac joint. So we're just hanging. You could either hold here, or if you want to do a few reps, into the rotation and back to center. Switch sides. So just a little longer than a walking stride. Make sure knees are straight, hips are even. Find the hinge, the left hamstring stretching, And then we're gonna open now the left SI joint by rotating the torso. So the right hip is going down and in, aiming for the left knee. And we're just holding it here, making space, or maybe we do a few integrations, couple woodpecker rotations. Yeah, and then from there, we're simply gonna step forward and we're gonna do our wide founder one more time. Toes in, heels out, outer anchor, push the heels away from each other, hinge your hips back, breathe here. Maybe a little tiny wagging of the tail, just to see if you can get a little more space, a little resetting of the SI joint. Last breath here. Exhale, stand up. All right.